Hello and welcome to the Be Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast. It has been quite an action-packed start to the year already, and I am very excited to be talking to Susanne Mitschke, all the way from LA, Los Angeles. Welcome to the show, Susanne.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Hey, thank you. And thank you for coming on the show and being completely open-minded, but also courageous in terms of I haven't sent you any questions. It is raw, it is unfiltered. We are going to free flow. We're going to be formless throughout this whole episode. And yeah, hopefully you're feeling super, super chilled and relaxed, and we'll just get on into it. So thank you. So Suzanne, you're the co-founder and CEO of Citruslabs. Great logo behind you there. I love the colors, by the way. Purple is one of my favorite colors. It's a contract research organization, CRO, running clinical studies for consumer health, skincare, supplements, and wellness brands. I'm really curious about getting into this a bit more, your business. Before that, before Citrus Labs, sorry, you co-founded MindMate, which was an award-winning brain health app, and you and your co-founders have been recognized twice on Forbes 30 Under 30, 2018, 2020. So clearly super ambitious, high performing. I love all of that. Before I hand it over to you, though, I do want to share with the audience your response to my question on what's one unique insight or uh, I guess experience you want to share in life, leadership, and or business. And you said coming from clinical research, people assume research is black and white, but rarely it is. Most of the work I do happens in the grey space. That's where human behavior, biology, belief systems, placebo effects, compliance, emotions, and lived experience all collide. I really loved reading this, by the way. The data points might be clean, but the context never is. Working in health and wellness with a strong passion in women's health has shown me that the grey area isn't a flaw. It's where the truth actually shows up. You learn to hold scientific rigor and human complexity at the same time. Fascinating. That's the real art of evidence building, letting the numbers speak while still honoring the messy reality of all the people behind them. Wow. It was so
Wow,
cool.
right?
Yeah, it was so
Yeah.
cool reading this. So, and I'm loving reading all of these. So, tell us a bit about your journey. I'll let you start where you want to start, but clearly a serial entrepreneur. Love to hear your story.
I'm also impressed by my answer. I had no idea where this was coming from. Maybe I am smart, who knows?
It's always the way when someone reads out somebody else as well, right? Like you kind of like I've never been a big fan of being, the big song and dance, the big intro when you're either doing a presentation or you're doing a keynote or something, and they're like, "Oh, this is Belinda." Or da, 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 da. But that's why I asked this question because I kind of want to get into like what makes you tick? Like what's your like unique insight or lived experience in life, leadership, and or business, and you've shared it. So there you go.
Yeah. So at school, I actually focused on clinical studies. So I was really interested in, so there was one course, clinical trial study design. Then I did questionnaire design. Then I did epidemiology. Then I did biostatistics. And all of that kind of resembles around the entire topic of clinical trials and clinical research.
Hmm.
And because I live in Los Angeles, Los Angeles is the hub for health and wellness. So a lot of my friends actually founded brands, supplement brands and skincare brands.
Mm.
And many of them actually wanted to start with some sort of scientific validation why their product it should exist, but also that their product works. And back in the days, that was kind of still a really big differentiator. So they were asking me all of these questions around clinical studies and around, how much it should cost, what they should ask these study participants. They were asking me about different methodologies, also how to analyze the data, how to interpret the data. And then I was just asking them if I could run these studies for them, and they said yes. And essentially, this is how it came together, right? So I did these studies actually for two brands. Then it was a huge success on their end, on my end. Then they introduced me to some of their brand friends. And they were also like really surprised how well everything worked in, running this study, getting study results like super quick at a very fair price point. And then I decided a business out of it. And this is how Citruslabs was born. And it's actually the name Citruslabs is coming from the first clinical study ever run, which was in Scotland, where I also went to school. And they were actually doing experiments on sailors for scurvies and using citrus food for it.
Yeah, right. Cool. Because I do love it, and I love the way it's got a little bit of missing bit of the citrus, if you like, or the like. Yeah, it just kind of like really. I mean, it's obviously the sea. It piques your interest, etc. So, yeah, it's very cool. So I don't even know where to start about this because, like, when you're as scientist, if you like, well, do you call yourself like clinical researcher? Like, do you call yourself a scientist, or what do you like to like? Is it science? It's obviously scientific. I shouldn't say you're a scientist as such, but like when you were doing this clinical research, these clinical trials, for example. Were you doing them in a lab? How were you doing all these different bits of pieces of work for your friends and clients? Like for it all to begin? Like where did it begin? Was it being done in the kitchen at home, for example? Like where did you start it?
It was actually, so one study was decentralized, and the other one was in an office,
Mm,
which was very, very cool. So decentralized, super easy. You ship out product to participants. These participants are at home. And at the beginning, there was obviously a lot of hand holding until, we nailed down the process of recruiting, getting people into the study, and then also following people in the study, making sure that they take their test products, right, filling out questionnaires, potentially going to get their blood work done, or sending in blood samples via finger stick test, or wearing an Oura ring, for example, on Apple Watch, or using a smart scale, right? But so right now, we focus only on decentralized studies. Back then, we also did in-office studies as well. And in-office was typically for skincare related studies because they rely heavily on before and after pictures.
mm,
And, having these more studio-like before and after photos to be like super pretty, almost perfect, right? Having almost like model-esque people on these pictures, having very dramatic before and after results.
mm.
This is why we've done these in-office studies back then. But now, what we are seeing, what also resonates a lot more with consumers, is actually real people at home taking
Yeah,
selfies
yeah.
and showing before and afters, like on these selfies.
Yeah. And so you talked to like so obviously that's skincare. What about like so supplements as well? Like is this like because you're in a hub. I didn't realize that LA was I mean I know it's a full health and wellness, but like the hub in the world. Like in terms of are you trialing out like supplements that they're clearly not even on market, like in market at the moment, right? But like what sort of supplements? Is it like anti-aging, for example? Are you like really new emerging supplements that, will help us live longer? Like what sort of like, yeah.
Doing all of it, all over different categories. So longevity, what you mentioned, right, is a very big category.
Mm,
Longevity can hit like different things. And typically for these longevity studies, they are these aging clocks, right? And
mm,
these studies typically also take a little bit longer, 6 months, 12 months, right? So to really see a difference in biological age in the individuals based
mm,
on a supplement, for example. Then there's a lot of blood work involved, typically, maybe even body composition, all of that fine things. And it's still all, conducted in people's homes. And then we either send them nurses and they take blood, right? Home phlebotomy. And then there are like all of these devices that we can send individuals. And then we are actually pulling the data from these devices. Then we also do a lot of work, what I'm really excited about in women's health.
mm.
Um, doing a lot of men's health work as well, and then just general health and well-being. There's a lot around gut health, for example,
Yeah.
immunity, is also a very big category. Then we have beauty from within, which is also exploding.
What is
And
it?
then just
Puberty from within, did you say?
beauty from
Oh,
within.
beauty. I thought you said puberty from within. And I'm like, what is that? But beauty from within. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Keep going.
And we also, so we started doing a lot of studies on pets, which is very exciting. You mentioned you have a dog,
Yeah,
right?
he's two. He's so cute. I'll show you him to him after. He's gone. He's gone. He's gone. He's sulking because he wants to play, but it's
Okay, you can get over it. But yeah, we're doing a lot of studies on dogs, on cats. We've also done studies on horses. I'm an equestrian, so I was very excited about it. And on kids, we also do studies on kids multivitamins, for example, or products to help kids focus a little bit better.
Yeah, wow. So is Citruslabs then, so it's more new age wellness, right? New age wellness, new age, health. Is that like kind of the area and the space that you're in? Because like, I was even reading the other day something about pets and like it is just going to like explode in terms of there's so many people now, less children, more pets, for example. And just like even this was around, you're going to laugh at me, but it was around like the couture brands and like the Gucci's of the world and the Louis Vuittons, and they were having like pet ranges, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is wild. Same sort of thing around like, obviously what you're talking about from no doubt a clinical trial in terms of making sure that your pet's living as like longevity, etc. But like across the board and every, from kids to women's health to men's health, this is almost like for me, it feels like it's very, it's no longer about just when you're sick or, for example, it's being preventative, like, across all aspects as we're, aging from childhood up to, kind of being older. Is this like is a lot of new, it's clearly a lot of new age clinical trials that you're doing. Yeah.
It's more for products also that don't need clinical trials to actually go to market. Because in the US, we have this GRAS list. It's called generally recognized as safe.
Hmm.
And once you sell anything on that list, you don't have to run a clinical study to show that it's safe. Because clinical studies are typically conducted even for like drugs to actually show that it's safe, not
Yeah.
necessarily that it works. Like the most important part is that it's safe. And then the next part is, does it work? And the big issue that I am seeing in the market right now is that supplements think that they are outperforming drugs. And unless, you have already a healthy person and you want to make that healthy person healthier, it is very hard for a supplement to actually treat or cure a
Yeah.
disease. And I think that is an issue that the industry is currently struggling with a little bit, because it doesn't mean that the supplement does not work. It means that, it's just not as strong, but it can still help individuals,
Yeah.
especially to optimize health versus, cure or treat anything.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you're talking about, like for me, I hear like integrated, like it's almost like integrated of having, like the supplement, but also like whatever is required to also like, that's that holistic health, like, it's kind of even almost like for me, it's beyond wellness. Tell me a little bit about this gray area, the gray space, and what happens. You talked around the data points might be clean, but the context never is. You're working in you've got this strong passion in women's health. Yeah, tell us a little bit about women's health in this gray area.
So women's health in general is under-researched, underfunded, but it is also, in my opinion, mis-researched,
Mm.
because trying to kind of catch up with the research that was missed. Uh, But now we are trying to answer like all of the big questions and all at once versus starting with like smaller questions, right? And then we are also having like, why is, PCOS and endometriosis still like such a big thing? Why does it take like 6 years on average to diagnose a
It's wild.
PCOS or endo, for example, right? And why are there no better systems? And obviously that is an important question. But the other important question, especially for like actual, practice of medicine, is why are we using one scale for everything? Why are we not having, like, when we are looking at pain, for example, or when we are looking even at heart health, right? When you are admitted to a hospital, right? Why are we treating women and men the same? Why are women not treated differently? Because, for example, heart attack symptoms are vastly different in women compared to men. This is why they are typically detected like way later, because women typically don't have that, oh my God, my heart hurts, I'm having a heart attack kind of situation, right? It shows up differently. So, this is part of it. But then also, when you're looking at, the health and wellness industry itself, it is actually, going into that void that traditional Western medicine left open, which is extremely exciting.
Mm.
And I many brands are doing an incredibly good job in specifically educating women. So I think like we are in a time where women in general are very well educated on their own bodies, on knowing how to advocate for themselves, especially, with healthcare professionals. And I am sometimes mind blown by myself when I am at my doctor, and then I'm asking for specific tests, and then this doctor just looks at me like I just asked them for an opioid prescription. Like,
Yeah,
no,
it's
just want
wild.
like a blood test.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then why that is not standard? Like, yeah, standard is like women and men are the same.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Do you think that women are coming into their own a bit more? Like, you talked around, or do you think we're just getting more comfortable in our own skin and knowing what we need more of, knowing what's right? Like, is this like, call me what random, call me a bit out there, but like, is this, I'm a massive believer in intuition, right? Like, and you read stories around people with endo or PCOS and like the pain tolerance, like it's like when you're in pain, you're in pain. Like if someone goes, no, you're exaggerating. It's like, no, no, no. I actually know when I'm not right. Like, as
All
a
in your
woman,
head.
pardon, sorry.
All in your head.
Yeah, I can't stand it. It's all in your head, or, like, are you sure it's not this? Are you sure it's not like, no, you know when something is not right. Intuitively, in within you, something is saying to you, I need to look into this. Like, do you think that is it education? Like you have mentioned it's education, but is it also just something that we're becoming more and more fed up, if you like, with the misresearch and that we're like, we want answers and we are well within our rights as women to be looking for getting the right answers so we can finally get to the root cause of the problem to then live our best lives. Do you know what I mean? Like, is that like, do you think it's that? Like, what is it?
Yes, I think we are all a little bit more confident now
Yeah.
as well. And because we are more confident because there are so many stories of women that have experienced the same things, right? And one of my stories is actually that in 2019, I had a severe B12 deficiency,
I'm
and I
B12
did not
deficient.
know that. Yeah, I did not know that at that time.
No.
And I felt horrible. I felt like I would die any second. I couldn't walk. Like,
Oh,
couple of steps, and my entire body felt like very numb, something I never experienced. Everything like felt a little bit tingly, and I thought like I'm having a stroke paired with a heart attack, and I had maybe MS. I had no idea what was happening to my body because I'm a very active person, and then I couldn't even walk like half a mile. Like, what is happening? I had like shortness of breath, like everything. It was weird. So I went to the ER and they discharged me. Oh, we think you're just dehydrated. Just drink a little bit more. Okay. And then 2 days later, I was back and I was like, guys, I'm not feeling well. I like something is up. Um, then they were like, yeah, you're still dehydrated. Don't worry about it. Just in case, use an antibiotic, which I obviously didn't take because I'm like, I'm not just taking a random
no.
antibiotic.
Yeah.
to even give that to me. Then the third time, they did a little bit more tests and they were looking at, they did some ultrasounds and stuff, and then they found something on my liver, and then they discharged me with like, oh, it's maybe cancer, just get it checked out. And I was like, what? Um, so I got a CT scan. It was not cancer, thankfully,
Yeah.
but something was still not right. So I visited 10 different doctors. Everyone said everything looks fine. It's probably just in your head. They actually did send me to a psychologist. I was like, okay, that's a new low. I was like, how is it possible that from one day to another, I'm apparently severely depressed and suicidal and whatnot? Like, where is this coming from? No, it can't be it. And then the last doctor asked me about, you actually look very fit. Are you vegetarian? And I'm like, yeah. And then he was like, okay, let's do one more test. And he did a B12 test. And then he was like, girl, you are just very deficient in B12. So I got like a high dosage of B12 for like 3, 4 days. And after like 3, 4 days, I was back to normal.
Yeah.
Everyone told me I'm fine. I was clearly not fine. I advocated for
I
myself.
know. I'm sorry you
Yeah.
had to go through that because I'm B12 deficient too. And I actually have to have an injection every month and take supplements throughout the week just to kind of keep me going. And I know when I'm down on it, like low, oh my God, like I actually like you're I don't know if you've ever heard of Vegemite. Like it's like a spread that we have here in
Of
Australia
course. Yeah.
full of B12, right? So I
Yeah.
have had moments where I've just eaten it like by the spoonful just to get like because but I had a similar story with when I was doing IVF and long story short, I had a few miscarriages, early pregnancy ones, and I remember at the time they put me onto a genetic specialist and we're looking into what's causing this. And it turned out it all worked out in the end why I was B12 deficient, why I was like folic, like it was this gene that I had. But it was me all these years going, I just don't feel myself. I just don't feel right. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because you're always kind of having to kind of keep being curious and keep asking the questions to be able to then get to the root cause of exactly what it is. And I think you're right about women being more confident and the ability to just go, you know what, no. Like it's interesting, and even like perimenopause and all of that now, it's becoming so big, like in terms of just this, like finally, we're actually like your life isn't over at this, like I shouldn't say this age, but I'm heading into that age, but you know what I mean? Like it's not, it's just like get on top of it, be preventative, like let's kind of not leave it till it's like the last minute and then go, oh, actually, like let's do something about it, which is so
Yeah.
important, don't you think? Because,
Definitely.
to pivot into now like being a leader and being, an entrepreneur and having your own business, if your cup is not full, if you're not feeling your most energetic best self, how are you able to do it all? You can't. You actually can't. So
No,
tell
you
us.
You can, though. And I'm really excited that many of the brands we are working with in women's health, they are actually launching or launched products also to support women in perimenopause and menopause, and are doing, a lot of education also around the entire topic. Because also from like that perspective, from a healthcare verse, there's kind of this misconception, right? That healthcare professionals hate supplements and supplement people hate healthcare
Healthcare. Yeah.
but that's actually not the case. There's so much research around, specific ingredients that can actually help reduce or alleviate, menopause, perimenopause symptoms. And it's not just one study; it's several studies. But that is another thing that I also think is a little tricky, because at some point, everyone immediately gets. Or thinks they're an expert, in reading research. So when there's just one or two things that are a little vague in a research paper, right? They immediately saying, that doesn't work, right? Why didn't they, or looking, at methodologies or looking at inclusion exclusion criteria, right? There's always in any research, there's always something you can criticize. There is no such thing as the perfect research paper because it just doesn't exist. If it would exist, this research wouldn't exist because it is all reliant on humans, and
Yeah.
humans are not perfect.
Yeah. So then is that what you like from a like UMass, like with this grey area, because it's fascinating what you're talking about, and then getting the tangible data results from the research. And then also obviously that you're testing it on real humans or, animals, for example, etc. It's the ability to look at both, right, and put the two together is what you're talking about here, right? In terms of you get the data results, but it's also then understanding, hang on a sec, is that all lining up with what the actual the person is saying, the real person, like the human? Is that like kind of what you're bridging the gap there as well versus just writing it off. Like if the data comes back and it says this, well, that's it. It's black and white versus hang on a second. Let's like if there is a bit of a grey area there, let's understand a little bit more here from, the clinical trials, for example, that we've been doing with these real humans in their homes, for example, to dig deeper into like, is there a solution here, like or not? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, and it also is, it's not really about, one study, it's about several studies,
Yeah.
right? And looking at trends in like several studies. And there will be studies that come to a negative conclusion, but there will also be studies that come to a positive conclusion. And then you have to understand the actual research. Why did that one research paper come to a negative, doesn't work conclusion versus a positive that does work conclusion? And then there's also this big difference because in research, we are typically looking at something called statistical significance, which means that a result is not created by chance, right? But that it's replicable. So if something is statistical significant, that typically means thumbs up, that stuff works. But as a researcher, I can technically produce statistical significance by design. So I can overpower a study. And when I overpower studies, I can almost make everything statistical significant, but that doesn't mean that it actually works because it might be clinically not meaningful.
Yeah.
So a good example is blood pressure, right? If I lower blood pressure by just 1 point, it doesn't mean anything, right? But if the study is overpowered and has like 100,000 participants in it, it might as well be statistically significant, even though it doesn't mean anything
Yeah.
because it's not clinically meaningful.
Fascinating. It's so fascinating. Tell us a little bit about 30 under 30 Forbes and, like you're obviously an, entrepreneurial journey. What is it required from you as a founder, as an entrepreneur, like in terms of, like yeah, what is it required from you? Like well, I guess what makes you tick? How have you've got this relentless passion. I won't say drive because drive feels very forceful, right? But you've got this relentless passion to solve problems, to be super curious, etc. Have you always, since a child, been um, yeah, have you always been like very curious and taken calculated risks if like etc. Like yeah, what led you to be more, I mean, obviously your friends and that like what happened with Citruslabs, but I think we've either got it in us or we don't in terms of this ability to start our own business and have our own company. And you've been super successful at such a young age.
So, because I just mentioned that it doesn't mean anything, I think that something like Forbes is complete vanity. To
Yeah.
me, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't project success, and it doesn't even mean that you are successful. It just means that at this point, you've created like enough momentum for yourself that Forbes knows about you and someone nominated you, and they think that what you are doing is good. So, also with the whole thing that I think a lot of people that were on that list are in prison. It's really interesting. So yeah, if to me that is entire, vanity would actually count as how's the business doing, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing, like the flashy thing, is often like artificially like boosting something up versus, what you see like Instagram versus reality,
Yeah,
right?
so
Um,
true.
So I rather live in reality, and it might not be as glamorous in reality, but it's real. So this is what I personally really like. And as a kid, I was always doing like a lot of different things. And what I learned about myself is that I don't like to have a boss because I
Can't
think,
imagine you would actually. Like you would just
yeah,
like, who says? Like,
yeah, because I feel like, I know a lot of things and I have a very specific way of doing things, and it it led me to what I think like a fairly successful business. And so I can't do a lot of things wrong, right? And on like in my journey, like during the past like 10, 15 years, I got a lot of advice. And if I would have listened to some of this advice from some very successful, specifically investors, our business would have been bankrupt already like 1,000 times. So just because I take advice. I'm like, cool, I would do it differently and we do it differently. So we'll see.
yeah, I love it. I love though that you're so like yourself. You're living and being your authentic, real self. Like, and that always comes from within, right? And I love that you called out it doesn't mean anything. So what does meaning mean to you then? Like what is I'm trying to frame the question for it to make sense because it doesn't mean anything. What's the opposite to that for you then?
The only thing that means something is revenue, and also profit. And I think a lot of people, they are just artificially boosting up their revenue. And similar to statistically significant findings, right? You can artificially create it. You can artificially bump up your top line revenue, but what's actually in the bottom line? That's the most important part. So when I think of creating like shareholder value, I am looking for positive profits over just artificially boosting top line revenue, what many startups are actually doing.
Yeah, I love it. I love that your focus is there. And what brings you joy? Like what brings you like your purpose, your passion? I mean, obviously it's in women's health, right? But like what about you? So like, outside of work, how do you switch off? How do you switch off? Like what do you do? Like, I mean, as an entrepreneur again, as a founder, you're clearly scaling, doing really well. When you've got, shareholders, etc., there's always that added pressure.
Yeah.
How do you actively recover yourself to be the best version you can be in the business?
So, I work in health and wellness, but personally, I also have a very big interest in health and wellness. So that is a big part of my life, and I also have a personally very big interest in women's health and advocating
Mm,
for women's health as well. And then I find a lot of joy in horseback riding.
yeah,
So that's a big thing. Like horses are a big part of my life, and animals in general. I love
yeah,
animals. Yeah,
same.
the best.
Yeah.
And I also run. I like running. I run marathons, um, which I had to mention because this is how you know that someone runs marathons because they mention it.
I used to run.
Um,
I've only ever done half a marathon actually. I used to run. I haven't run for years. I gave it away, and yeah, that I love it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a good. I find it meditating. Do you find it meditate? Yeah, you've kind of come into that meditative state where your answers drop for you. Yeah,
Lovely. And I like to run without anything, like no headphones, nothing.
yeah,
I really like it. Just on Saturday, I was on a 2 hour run just with myself, no headphones, nothing, and it was amazing. And then I also like to play pickleball, which is a very big thing now.
yeah.
Southern California, it's a lot of fun. And a lot of my friends play pickleball, so that is great to have like friend time as well. And yeah, otherwise, I just, grind and do stuff for the business.
Yeah. And so what's the big plans for Citrus Labs this year? Like without giving away all your secrets, but like, yeah, what's your big focus?
So big focus for us is specifically marketing and specifically events. So we haven't done a lot of in-person events, and I know that a lot of companies are very successful with it, like conferences and stuff, right? So this is something that we are trying out from like, just different area perspective. And then I mentioned it already, pets. I
Yeah.
think pet health will be extremely big for us in 2026.
Yeah.
We've seen it already. The year started and it's shaping out. It's isn't it the year of the horse?
Yeah, it
So
is
I
year of the horse. It's a 1 year or a 10 year. Like I'm reading now, it's like a 10 year as well. But the year of the horse doesn't start till February. So we're still apparently shedding the snake. And I'm kind of feeling that a little bit. Like, but then come mid-Feb, I'm right into it. Yeah, it's the horse.
so we are seeing a lot of horses and dogs and cats and some designer chickens at the horizon.
Oh my God, how funny.
They,
You
they
know
are
what? My
products.
dog, oh, sorry, you go.
There are products for designer chickens. It is
Uh,
mind-blowing. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so mind blowing. My dog keeps eating grass, and I actually said to my mum the other day, he keeps eating grass, and I know it's something, it's a gut thing, right? He keeps
Yeah.
stopping to eat grass, and mum, I said that to mum the other day, and she's like, "Oh, it's okay, they just do that," and I'm like, "No, no, no," and then I'm like, "I need to work out what vitamin or supplement he needs. He eats so well, but something's going on in his little tummy." And I'm already thinking about supplements for my dog. And I know my family's just going to be like, oh, here she goes. Like, but it's true. Like, he's my child. I want him to like live his best life and be as healthy as he can be.
Exactly.
Of course, I would, get into I need to look into that. What is it going to solve it? So, yeah, it's
Yeah.
fascinating. I love what you're doing, Suzanne. If you could give one piece of advice as a founder who is in scale up mode, so let's say they're the second year in, what would it be?
That's a good question. I actually don't like generic advice, but generally is I think listen to your gut. I think that is the most important thing because your gut is always right. And there's even this book about it that, sometimes you cannot explain things, but it just feels off. And it is coming from like this million years of evolution that ourselves learned to, being like this fight or flight mode. And when you feel that something is off, this yourself, having like different information that you might not make sense right now in this moment, and you cannot explain it, but your cells are right and your gut is right. So if something feels off and you have a bad gut feeling, it's probably better to walk away.
Yeah, I love that. And what about and last but not least, what would be one piece of advice around like for a woman who is facing some health challenges? What would you say there? Again,
Just
like that.
advocate. Advocate, advocate, advocate until you have the answers. And sometimes it will suck and it will maybe even take like years to get to the ground, but it is just about never giving up and just asking questions. And if you need it in the doctor's office, right, it's okay to actually have it written out on your phone or on a piece of paper, or even take someone with you who can advocate for you, but it's about not giving up and asking for clarity and asking for tests and not taking no for an answer if something feels off.
Yeah, be confident, back yourself. I love it. Thank you. How do we find out more about Citruslabs and you, Suzanne?
Yeah, you can check out our website at www.citruslabs.com, all in one word. And then you can find me on LinkedIn under Susanne Mitschke.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I am wishing you all the best. I have no doubt your events, etc., are going to be, you're gonna smash it. Like I think more and more people, like I was actually talking to somebody else on the pod yesterday about networking and events and, more of that. We need more of those experiences, I think, like get everyone out of the house, get everyone to kind of feel it, see it, live it, and, like connect and create those communities. So I love what you are doing and really kind of getting into that gray area, that the messy bit of the reality behind everybody and how you're reshaping the industry. So
Well, thank you so much for having me. That was a lot of fun.
No, and hopefully it was okay with when it was with no
Yeah,
scripted questions. I
yeah,
hope you enjoyed that.
totally fine.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. Take care.